The following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the WZWA Network. Once again, you're here with your boy Hogsley. Hopefully a short one today. Today we'll be touching on Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. Geez, the things I put myself through for these reviews because, oh boy, we'll get into it. But before I do, look, I'm going to shit all over this fight. Like, it's going to be bad. So before I get into the negative stuff, let me chuck out a few positive things. So, first of all, I've got to at least credit Jake Paul for his growth as a boxer. Okay, I've seen highlights of some fights. I obviously watched the Tommy Fury fight. You can't deny that this kid is at least getting better. He's at least training. He obviously works out. He looks like he cares, okay? In this fight, he was looking real springy. He was bouncing up and down, and he was throwing really good combos at times. Now, the level of opposition wasn't great in Nate Diaz, but look, he wasn't just looking for that overhand right. And, you know, that was his calling card. That's basically all he even did as a fighter was just flat-footed, throw the overhand right, hope you catch someone. But no, you know what? He's mixing it up. He was throwing good combos. He was going head to body. So he's definitely growing as a boxer, but he's still so limited. And I'll touch on why. But look, I'll give credit to Nate Diaz as well. That guy's old, and he looks old. And boy, did he fight old. But he was like the Terminator in there, man. The way he kept walking through these punches. The stamina on him, the ability to take a punch, just the braggadocio, is that the right word? Attitude, man. Like, he just didn't give a flying fuck what Jake Paul was throwing at him. In fact, he just looked so apathetic at times. It was weird. I'll touch on that as well. But look, I'll give credit to him because the dude can take a punch. There's no scoring for how well you can take a punch, but he can take some punches and he just keeps walking forward. Like I said, it's a Terminator in there. He reminds me of a much worse Joe Joyce. If anyone's familiar with him as a boxer, he was sort of nicknamed the Terminator. Very slow moving, but just would keep walking you down and keep breaking you down. Okay, that's the positive stuff out of the way. Let's crack into the actual fight. And as always, we'll do it chronologically. So we kick off with round one. And my God, Nate Diaz looked like he didn't belong in there at all. It was an embarrassment to watch. He was so slow. Oh my God, these punches were just, like he looked old. He looked like someone who had not done any training, who was only there to collect a paycheck, which probably would have been a good paycheck going up against Jake Paul. How the 205th ranked cruiserweight in the world is main eventing and like making millions of dollars. And that's current day boxing for you, but whatever. But goddamn, he just looked so bad, so garbage. He looked off balance. He was just rushing in while he was throwing punches, all of them coming from the hip. There was just, and anytime he did guard, it looked like he was shooting for takedowns. He just had his fists up and he would just lunge right into like these counter shots by Jake Paul, who, like I said, is fighting a lot more like a boxer and less like a puncher. Because he was countering him on the way in. I mean, I could have countered him on the way in. Jesus, my geriatric grandpa could counter Nate Diaz on the way in. That's how fucking slow he was moving. So Jake Paul, it's an easy dominating round one for him. You can't get any more clear cut than that. It was just dominating fashion. And look, that rhetoric just continued for rounds 2 and 3. Nate Diaz was just walking into punches, just was no footwork, was just, I don't know, like I said, it just didn't belong. It didn't belong. But what I will say is, it's I've used this analogy in other fights, just that fighter that's like that train going down the tracks, just keep getting faster and faster and faster, or that boulder rolling down the hill. He's starting to punch a bit more. He's just walking through the fire. And like, if you've ever seen a young child in a fight, like, I'm talking like a sparring thing, like if your son does or daughter does Taekwondo, they're 6 years old, they're doing their little tournaments and they're fighting another 6-year-old. They just go in guns blazing, just that's all Nate Diaz was doing once he was in. There was no the punches weren't coming back to the chin. It was just left, right, left, right. There was no real doubles ups of any sort of punches. There was definitely no jab. I think he threw like 2 jabs the entire fight that were actually decent jabs. And that didn't come to like round 8. He just goes in there and in that very slow style is just like slapping him. I know he was known for like a slap in the UFC, but yeah, he just didn't turn his wrists into these punches at all. They were landing at times, but the better, cleaner work was coming from Jake Paul. So round 2, round 3, boom, Jake Paul's again. So we move into round 4. And look, this little style Diaz is implementing is starting to be kind of successful. One of my biggest takeaways or negative things I've got to say about Jake Paul is when he's landing, when he's on the offense, he looks good, but he only has one speed, which is all out. That's all he does. Okay, he never paces himself in these fights, and he's got this big muscular frame. Okay, muscles like that, they sap the energy out of you. Okay, you look at what Anthony Joshua was like when he was that bodybuilding shape. They just don't have that stamina. And Jake Paul doesn't know how to pace himself. He just goes out there and is just was one-dimensional in that regard. He just lacks that sort of awareness, ring IQ. So he's starting to gas himself a little bit. I think he thought after round 1, because he had Nate Diaz rocked hard in round 1. I think he thought he was going to get him out of there quite quickly. So he just tries to. But Diaz is that warrior, like I said, and he walks through. And these little slapping slow shots start hitting Jake Paul. And that was the other negative thing. Jake Paul doesn't know what to do when he starts getting hit. Okay? He looks good when he's having his way. I suppose everyone does. But when the kitchen starts heating up, when the other guys start firing back at him, we saw this against Tommy Fury. He just lacks any sort of ring intelligence to know what to do. He just sort of turtles up and just wears the shots. Which, you know what? Nate Diaz was open there. He was there to be countered every time he got inside. Like I said, these punches weren't coming back to his chin. But Jake Paul sort of just freezes like a deer in headlights anytime these punches are coming back at him. He just doesn't know what to do. And I think this is what happens when you just cherry pick your opponents. You never really challenged. The fact that he lost to Tommy Fury is probably why he's so much better now, because it was experience. It taught him something. But when you're fighting Nate Robinson and these other guys, all right, they're not going to challenge you. They're not going to make you better as a fighter. You know that old saying, iron sharpens iron? Well, he's fighting this wet spaghetti out there sometimes. And I'm damn sure, well, I'm not damn sure, but I'm fairly sure that his sparring partners are probably very cherry-picked as well. Okay, they want him to feel good. They want him to look good. They obviously don't want him getting injured. Training camps, they're a very hush-hush, secretive business. I've not heard anything, but this is just what I believe. Okay, so take that with a grain of salt. So round 4, I give to Diaz because, like I said, he's starting to get inside on Jake Paul, who looked a bit gassed, and he's tagging him a little bit, and he's just turning it into a scrap, and Paul doesn't know what to do. So, boom. Round again. Then we go to round 5. And credit to Paul, he recovers. He looked gassed, he comes back strong, and he lands a very, very hard punch. This was a devastating punch. This lead left hook, which had been in his money punch all fight. It was very successful. It wasn't just the overhand right. I don't think I saw one of them in this fight. He saw this lead left hand was landing, and he stuck with it. And he ends up clocking Diaz on the side of his temple. And Diaz just goes stumbling down. He almost falls through the bloody ropes. Now, this is why a good base and good footwork is so important in boxing, because if you're off balance, punches will knock you down. But this wasn't a flash knockdown. This was hard. He clipped him, and Diaz went down. Now, I've not seen many of the UFC fights with Nate Diaz. I don't know if it was common for him to be knocked down, but the way he fought the rest of this fight, I think he's got a pretty good chin. Like I said, this guy's got not an iron jaw, but a very good jaw, very good chin. So he gets knocked down in round 5, and we're thinking, oh, this is it. Okay, the old man, he's done what he can. He had a bit of success in the past round, but Paul's just going to blow through him. But no, he gets up, and once again, he just keeps fighting through it. He just keeps walking through punches and keeps landing these shots to the body and these little short, little slapping uppercut shots to Paul. Okay, so look, clearly another round to Jake Paul. But Diaz is I thought he was here to collect a paycheck. I was proven wrong by about this point in the fight. He was there to fight. Somewhat. We'll touch a bit more on that. So the next couple rounds, they sort of play out very much the same. Jake Paul landing the better punches. Nate Diaz finding his way inside and scrapping it up every so often, but not enough to win any of these rounds. Definitely not. And I think from the get-go, Nate Diaz had resigned to the fact that he was going to lose this fight. Like, he came into this fight going, I'm going to lose. Okay? So I don't understand why he was actually given making it scrappy and fighting and taking some punishment when he was so resigned to the fact that he was losing. Because at times, and especially at times where he looked like he had Paul hurt or could win a round, he was just doing some really, really silly stuff. Like, he would turn his back and walk away, or at one point, after sort of getting a punch, he started going, ooh, oh, ha, 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 ha. Like, playing possum and mucking around and joking. Like, he was selling it like he was in the WWE. You know, maybe that's what he should have done. He should have gone and fought Logan Paul at SummerSlam rather than Jake Paul. And I just don't get it. And especially in like the later rounds, round 8, he rocks Jake Paul. He had him rocked, right? And that was towards the end of the round. And he threw double uppercuts to get it. And he landed double jabs, and he was looking like, man, he's sort of taken Jake Paul to deep waters. Jake Paul's never fought a round 9 or a round 10. Maybe he can pull off this upset here. But then in round 9, he starts doing this silly shit again, and he's turning his back, and he's playing around, and he's walking away, and he's just jawing at him. Mate, you almost had him there. What? It's like, I've lost anyway. Who cares? Let's have a bit of fun in here. Dude, what are you doing, man? How massive would that have been if you could have knocked him out? I mean, we all would have loved to see it, because that would have just been a massive upset. So I just don't. It just grinded my gears. It did my head in, everyone. Okay, because there were moments where Nate Diaz looked good, but then just times was just flushing it all down the toilet for this like little showboating he kept doing. Okay, and every time he played possum, it wasn't like he goaded Jake Paul into and then countered him. He would turn away, look around, and then when he would look back, he would cop a punch every time. No, at no point did this possum actually work. And yet he kept going to it. That's just stupid. But you know what? Like I said, round 9 and 10, he's actually walking down Jake Paul. Okay, well, especially round 8 and 9. Okay, you'd think the bigger guy would be walking down this old fart. No, he was just continually, slowly lumbering his way forward. And Paul was on the defensive. He was running around. He's jogging backwards. So, look, not much more to say. It was just garbage. I'm trying to give you an insight into what I watched. Let me sum it up. The better, cleaner punches were from Jake Paul. He looks better. Nate Diaz was just walking forward with absolutely no skill, no game plan. Was just like, I'll just wear this kid down. I'll throw a few punches. Let's have a good time, mate. And then Jake Paul just picks up the easy unanimous decision. I think 2 judges gave Nate Diaz 2 rounds and 1 gave him 3 rounds. I personally gave him 4, 8, and 9 from memory. Yeah, 4, 8, and 9 is what I've got here. So just Why do people pay for this, right? That was boring. It was so boring. I mean, and what does this mean for the career of Jake Paul? Where these are really the only people you can get wins over. And at times you looked bad in there against some guy who looked resigned to losing, zero footwork, no defense. And at times he was giving you trouble. I mean, Jesus, man, you look better, but you're just not a boxer, man. Like, I'm tired of watching these influencers, man. It would be exciting if it's knockouts and a bit of a scrap, but you keep cherry picking these opponents, and some of them end up making you look a bit bad, which is the opposite of what a cherry pick should do, right? I think, once again, if he goes up against Tommy Fury, he's just going to get embarrassed again. Like I said, when people start landing on him and he's got zero defense, he just looks frightened in there. Just deer in headlights, doesn't know what to do. So where do they go? Where do they go from here? Nate Diaz, apparently Jake Paul said, I'll put $10 million on the table to fight you in an MMA fight next. Now, I think I'd give that to Diaz 100%. The way he was getting inside on Jake Paul in a boxing match and wearing some of these punches, I think he would just tackle him to do the takedowns easily. And once you're down on the ground, I mean, Nate Diaz is a good BJJ technician. It'd be over. Easy. I'd put money on Nate Diaz just cleaning him out in MMA, which probably can be said for a lot of people, you know. MMA fighters going into boxing, what is their record here? It's got to be something just awful. And then boxers going into MMA, I don't know how many have done it, but their record has got to be awful as well. I mean, the greatest female boxer at the moment, Clarissa Shields, I think she did a couple of MMA fights, and I think she's lost 2 of them. So, and she's like the best the sport has to offer in the women's division. There was that one boxer who knocked out the champ in like one punch. That was good. Anyway, I'm getting off track. That was my review of Jake Paul, Nate Diaz. I'm sorry I couldn't give you the energy. That fight just sapped it all out of me. It was horrible. Don't go and watch it. But what you should do is like, comment, subscribe, all that good shit, and I will see you down the road. The typical Aussie attitude, just she'll be right.
Dominic.
Yeah, Dominic's in trouble.
Dominic, be careful,
just
bro.
let me smoke a couple Winnie Blues back here, boys.
Network, that's the way we play. Good God Almighty. Network, that's the way we play. Get puppies. Network, that's the way we play. Get.
The following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.